One of my least favorite things about doing theater is feedback. I mean, having people generally tell you, hey, good job, or I like the way you tell stories. I mean, that's pretty great. Or at the other end of the spectrum, having close friends and colleagues give you notes when requested can be really helpful. It's almost mandatory to do this, and I actually enjoy getting that type of feedback very much. The feedback I don't like is tips or ideas on how to do something you just did better, which is really rich coming from a guy who does a weekly horror movie podcast wherein he regularly remarks on how some of these movies could have done something better. But that's kind of different. This podcast is conversation away from the artist. I would never invite an artist to listen to one of our episodes about their film. This is a conversation for movie lovers, not feedback for movie makers. But people regularly say things to me like, I wish Night Vale was more of a strict plot, or you should do episodes without the weather. And I'm just not here for that. Like when I did theater, the work in progress showing was often followed by audience feedback sessions, which is maybe the most uncomfortable thing you can do as a playwright. Everyone knows what they want, and it's almost never what the script wants. In Hollywood, notes and feedback are formulaic. Put a clock on it. Give them a love interest. What's your theme? Add visual transitions between scenes. Can there be more young people in this story? And you keep adding more and more to your script. Sometimes that works out great if you can balance it all, but often it just becomes a clusterfuck of devices and tropes. Elizabeth Banks's third feature film, Cocaine Bear, is funny and gross and just like jam-packed with jokes and visual gags. The overarching plot is simple and high concept. A bear does cocaine, goes apeshit. But there are so many moving parts that get confusing if you even stop to think for just a moment. Feels like producers got the hand it feels like producers got their hands on the script and had a lot of feedback. Hey, nice story about a mom saving her kids, but what if there's a two-timing cop? What if the detective doesn't like tiny dogs? What if the drug dealer's son is mourning a dead wife? What if the daughter is into painting rocks, I think? What if the small-time gang members were actually led by a very sensitive boy, and so on? I'm not saying I had to stop down to question every moment of the script. There are just a few speed bumps along the way in the woods. Hi, Cecil.
Hi, Jeffrey.
Are you mountain guy, beach guy, city guy, or ocean guy? I guess a fifth version is desert guy.
Hmm. I'd say definitely mountain guy.
Yeah,
I do enjoy the mountains. I live in the mountains. I
yeah.
live in the backyard of where Cocaine Bear took place.
Mm-hmm.
This is the natural backdrop of what I look at on
You're
a regular basis,
yeah, I mean the opening news story we see is about Knoxville, Tennessee.
which is where I'm from.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I'm mountain guy. I think I'm city guy primarily. I think I'm
Yeah,
I'm gonna rank. I'm gonna go city, mountain, probably beach, then ocean.
yeah.
Um, yeah, I did vacation last year to the beach. I'd never done like a 4 straight day, just go to a resort, hang out on a beach. And I got about a day and a half in and was like, I'm done.
Yeah. You're like,
Beach done.
okay, that's great.
I want a museum now. I would like a
Yes.
fancy cocktail bar and a Michelin star restaurant for this vacation.
Yes, yes.
Um, all right, so I don't remember, we had Animal and something else that we rolled to get to this movie. And I remember there coming up like a slight question of whether or not Cocaine Bear is even a horror movie so much as like comedy with horror elements. And it's
Yeah.
funny, like re-listening back to our uh oh God, what episode did we do? Listening back to our Dead Snow episode,
Yeah.
which is a horror movie with comedic elements. This
Yes.
is a comedy with horror elements.
Absolutely.
And this movie is straight up a comedy, but it is gory and violent.
There are limbs aplenty.
There is organs squeezing their way out through a belly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Full shotgun to the head, or
Oh man. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, it's a fun and wild sort of ride. Did you see this movie already when it was out in the theaters?
Well, I don't know if this movie ever came out in the theaters because this was a pandemic movie.
Oh,
Like, I don't think
no, it came
movies
out
in
it was
theaters.
last year.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, it definitely was in the theater.
Okay. No, but then I did not see it in the theater because I was not going to movie theaters when this movie came out. This was a rental for me.
Hmm. Uh, well, let's start at the beginning. We've got drug dealer Andrew Thornton on his plane late at night, and he is dancing around. And he is just kicking duffel bags full of cocaine overboard out of the plane.
Cocaine cowboy, complete like full fat Elvis, karate
Yes.
moves. He is bopping to those 80s tunes,
Yeah.
having a good time.
The whole gag here is we sort of, if you've even seen the trailer to this film, they don't have to spend long setting up what's happening. We
Yeah.
know from the trailer a drug dealer dropped a bunch of cocaine out of a plane on a drug drop, and a bear got it.
Yep.
And so he's the last one off of this plane. He's going to jump out of it, and he knocks himself out on the head running into the door frame, and then he gonna die because he
Yep.
doesn't have a parachute to stop him.
And this is all based on a true story. And I think this is the moment in which the true story ends.
Yes, at no point in time does the true story actually come to fruition. In fact, I think the actual true story is drug dealer dropped stuff
Yeah.
out. Drug dealer
Yeah.
died in the process of falling
Yeah.
to earth.
Yeah.
A bear found it, ate the cocaine, and
Yeah.
died.
And died.
The end.
The
That's
end.
that's the whole true story.
Yep. There and I do like how Wikipedia, which is quoted in the opening sequence of this movie, the bear is affectionately known as Pablo Escobar,
Mm-hmm. Or Cokie the bear.
Cokie the bear.
Pablo Escobar. All right. Chattahoochee National Forest, Georgia, 1985. We've got Olaf and Elsa camping and hiking, these Norwegian couple. Yeah, it's cute, sweet. They're about to get married. You
Yeah.
know, they're
They're having a little, maybe a little discussion about Olaf's brother's band playing at the wedding.
because he sucks as a singer.
Yep.
And they're talking about like what would be a good name for a child. And she was like, if it was a boy, I'd name him Texas.
It's like, isn't that a state?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but that's cool now. That's really
It's
in.
very cool. Um, but they we see them cross paths with a giant bear footprint.
Yeah.
We also
Oh,
see a bright red bag with a rainbow strap hanging from a tree.
yes. So 80s. I love it.
I love that the choice of bags, which I guess makes sense if you're doing a drug drop, the choice of bags is bright red.
Yeah, so you can find it in the woods later.
Yeah. But then they get to the top of the hill and they see a black bear and they start taking photos of it. I like her line where she was like, first we saw the humpback whales, and now we see a bear. We have such good luck in nature.
Yes, we do. Uh for now.
This bear is bashing its head against a tree.
Yeah.
Now, I've never seen a bear on cocaine, but I've seen plenty of humans on cocaine in my life. And I don't think I've ever seen somebody bashing their head against things. I mostly just hear about like awesome conversations that they've had you know, at 45 RPM on a 33 LP.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Or I
Yes.
hear about business ideas. Business ideas are a big one for
Yes.
cocaine users. Yeah. Um, this bear is bashing its head on a tree. And again, horror movie device. We're seeing the bear through the
So
viewfinder,
funny. I love it.
and that bear is bashing head on the tree and then just turns and
I know the
stares right
slow
at them.
turn, which is honestly, that's as someone who has encountered bears in the woods, that's kind of how it works. Like there is a moment in which you know exactly when the bear registers your presence.
Yep.
Most of the time, the bear doesn't give a fuck, to be
No.
honest, unless you're near a bear cub, and then you should just run the other way because then they do give a fuck. But mostly bears are like, oh, you're over there. Okay,
Uh,
whatever. But
yeah.
not cocaine bear. Cocaine bear.
Cocaine bear is it's so funny because we have this issue in horror movies all the time, which is what does the monster want? You know what I
Sure.
mean? Like I've seen like in werewolf movies, I think this has come up
Yeah.
for me, which is are they using their jaws, like as a werewolf using its jaws to kill somebody, or are they eating them?
Are they hungry?
Yeah.
Or is it just, yeah, is it just pure rage?
Uh-huh.
Like just rage, berserker style?
Yeah, are they using their teeth like Jason would a machete, you know? So I get a little confused by it because I think the bear in this movie ultimately is just, well, I don't think I know, it is drawn to the smell of cocaine. It
Yes.
wants more cocaine. It loves the fucking cocaine. And so anytime it gets a sense that cocaine is near, uh, it goes nuts. But it strikes me as odd that it like spends any time like chewing people up and spitting out their legs.
Yes. Like bear, what the
What?
bear? So it's a cocaine rage, but it's also like just bloodlust.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That which I guess that's what it is. That's how instead of bears don't have business plans, they have bloodlust, I guess, when they get
That's
up
it.
on cocaine.
They're like, let me explain my bloodlust to you up close and personal. But it's more like the I think the horror elements of this are they're really funny, but they're definitely there's some horror beats in this film, and it's like when Olaf hands the camera to his girlfriend, she's like, "What? I don't see anything," and he's like, "Here, hand it back," and the bear just like appears in the
Yes.
forefront of the camera. The best.
So good. We of course one of my favorite phrases, if it's black, fight back. If it's brown, lie down. When people say make yourself bigger than the bear, they are referring only to the black bear,
Yes.
which is essentially just an oversized rodent. It's like just a giant raccoon.
Yeah.
Whereas the brown bear, you need to convince that brown bear that you are dead.
Yeah.
And if it's a polar bear, you're just fucked.
Yeah. Yeah. Because polar bears are huge,
and polar bears are violent. Like they give
very
no
hungry.
shits. Yeah.
They're very hungry.
But Elsa takes off running, and of course, we're running down a hill, so we're eventually going to see an ankle get twisted or
Oh
broken on a rock.
no.
And instead of attacking Olaf, who's twisted his ankle, it attacks Elsa. And yeah, just full on linebacker tackle out of
Yes.
bounds into the brush. And all we see is a severed leg go flying and land in front of Olaf.
Another horror trope that I love is the like, help me, as the person's laying on the ground by some, being eaten by an off-screen CGI bear
Uh huh.
or whatever, what have you. And then the person just goes, shoop, and that gets pulled back.
Uh huh.
That's definitely a horror movie trope that I do enjoy. The like, watching that person just recede into the distance.
Uh huh.
And we know they are bear food.
They are. And then we get our title card. It's the close up on the bear roaring
Oh
in
my
front of
God,
the
the
camera.
best.
This is Cocaine Bear.
That's all. The thing I love about bears are their lips.
Uh huh.
Their lips are so unhinged. I mean, they're pretty adorable. Bears are even
Yeah.
on cocaine, and I think that is the driving force of this movie is something that is so big and so terrifying, and yet also so freaking cuddly and adorable. So when that butterfly goes by and the cocaine bear, which clearly has a very limited attention span, gets distracted by a butterfly and just wants to go play with it, I think we know what kind of horror comedy we're in at this
Yes.
point.
Well, we get the montage of 80s TV. The
Say
same.
no to drugs.
Oh, man.
This
God, I
is your brain
remember
on
these
drugs,
ads.
kids. Nancy Reagan and Paul Root and Pee Wee Herman told us not to do drugs.
Mm-hmm. Holy shit. I'm so interested in, and this movie alludes to it, and it's not this movie's job to deal with this, but I just my personal taste wanted more of the relationship between the Just Say No campaigns and the Nixon administration, right? Like
Yeah. You want a
because
little
they
more
even
politics? Or
yeah,
Nixon or Reagan?
no Nixon, because they
Oh,
bring up Nixon late in this movie when Bob, the detective,
yeah.
tells when he has the drug dealer boys at gunpoint. He was like, "Oh, you're going to prison for a long time. Yeah, Nixon's war on drugs is gonna fuck y'all." And
Oh,
and it's really interesting. It's kind of a very smart little comment that Elizabeth Banks has in this movie about what was our war on drugs exactly.
yeah. Yeah.
And history will tell you that the war on drugs was a way to oppress political opposition to Nixon, right? It was a way to oppress hippies and black people, is
Yeah.
essentially it. And but this movie doesn't really have a message beyond just that tiny little Easter egg. Its message is cocaine is hilarious.
Yes.
Is
Bears on
essentially what we're
cocaine.
at. Yeah.
Hilarious.
But we get this footage, which seems very real footage to me. I'm guessing
Yeah, it's
this is
like Tom Brokaw
100%.
or something,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, it's Tom Brokaw giving a story about in Knoxville, Tennessee, where 1985, a dead parachutist and 70 pounds of cocaine were found on a Knoxville man's lawn. And his chute didn't open, failed to open, and they believe that there's more cocaine to be found somewhere.
Yes. It's
Then
like an
we,
Easter egg hunt for
yeah,
cocaine.
for cocaine bricks. That's what we used to do
So,
every Easter.
yeah, just paint them pretty light colored and just go hide bags of cocaine in your yard and
I,
let your kids run free.
I loved dyeing cocaine. It was so fun.
Yeah.
Just
Is
get the
that
little
like
pink.
designer drug? Is that what they mean by designer drugs?
Uh-huh. Yep.
They're like, ooh, this cocaine is like a light lapis lazuli. Is that a word? Is that how you say that word?
Sure. That sounds right.
I don't know. Did I make that up?
That sounds really familiar to me. I'm not sure what that means. That's one of those phrases that, like, if it ended up being the answer in a crossword puzzle, I'd be like, okay, yeah, I've heard
Uh-huh.
of this. I don't know
Uh-huh.
what that is.
Did I just totally make that up? I don't know. I'm too lazy to look this up.
It's probably an animal. Who knows?
Yes.
I got very excited when I saw Isaiah Whitlock Jr., who plays Detective Bob, because this is he is from The Wire.
Yeah.
Was he the mayor? He played the mayor of
Oh, it's
Baltimore.
been so long. It's been so long.
He's the one who had the amazing catchphrase, she.
Oh
Like
my
it was
God.
just every variation of a drawn out shit was great. Um, so we've got him and his like deputy Reba,
Yeah.
and Bob's gonna set up that Thornton, the dead drug dealer, was one of St. Louis drug kingpin Sid White's crew. Sid White, played by Ray Liotta,
Yeah.
I believe in his final film role, because
Yeah.
we see a
Yeah.
tribute to him at the end. And Bob is he's like, this is a new case. I'm gonna investigate what happened to this cocaine. We've got to catch Sid White. We've got to get this cocaine. We've got to protect America. And then it goes down this weird path of
This dog.
he's got a little tiny Maltese, little white purse dog, little
Yeah.
bow in its hair.
And it's apparent he is very embarrassed about this dog.
Yeah. Also, it's confusing that there's a brief scene where he calls the shelter and it's like, hey, I was supposed to get like a Labrador, but you sent me this dog. And I have adopted cats and dogs a few times in my lifetime, and I've never had it work out to where I called them and said, send me a dog. And then it's just like a box of Blue Apron, right? Like you don't know
Yeah.
what you're
Yeah.
gonna
Yeah.
get. Stitch Fix, but for dogs. And
Okay.
and so I was just sort of confused as to like, how does this shelter work? That they do they mail you the dog and you don't know what dog you're going to get?
Is
I
is
don't
that
know.
how dogs work?
I guess.
You just like knock, 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 a FedEx package with a dog inside.
I said in my intro that this movie feels like a bunch of notes, but I think actually now that I'm sort of thinking about it, another explanation is this movie is a straight up comedy, and the thing
No,
about comedians,
they're following the funny.
you're trying to jam pack it with as many jokes as possible. And this particular joke, there's a lot of these in here where I'm like, this doesn't land because I it just doesn't make any sense to me. Like it's not observing anything that would normally ever happen. Um, all right, so now we're gonna meet David.
Yes.
Great casting in this movie. O'Shea Jackson Jr.
Yep.
as David, Ice Cube's son. Because I immediately looked at him and I'm like, that man looks just like Ice Cube.
I know, right?
um, so he's meeting Sid White at a mall food court because it's 85.
Yep.
And Sid White says there's an area called Blood Mountain in Georgia. That's where the cocaine was let off. You got to go get that shit. Take my son Eddie with you.
And see, this is the part where you're like, you thought some of the funny bits didn't land. This is the part where I was like, what?
Mm-hmm.
What? Listen, like, I love this actor, Alden Eric Iron Rick. Um, great actor. But and he does an amazing job at this. But I was like, what is this backstory? It's like his wife has died,
Uh-huh.
leaving him with the son, and he wanted to get out of the family business of dealing the drugs, dealing
Right.
those drugs. And but he's like in mourning and can't take care of his kid, so he's dropped his kid off with like super creepy grandpa Ray Liotta, and he's like, yeah, just take Eddie with you because he needs something to take his mind off the grief of his dead wife. I was like, what? Huh?
Yeah, and he's like, and hey, also Eddie got out of the business because he wanted to spend more time with his wife. Well, his wife's dead now, so he probably
So he
wants
has
back
plenty
in.
of time for the family business.
Yeah. There's also when David goes to get Eddie at the bar, Eddie's like drinking his sorrows away. Eddie had gotten Eddie had gotten a tattoo with a heart with Joan's name on it, but it says John instead of Joan, so now he's bemoaning the fact that the tattoo artist misspelled it. I, okay.
So we've got a cop with a fem with like a sweet, yeah, very fancy girly dog. And we've got a drug dealer with the name John tattooed on his chest.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think it's pretty clear. Like we're not exactly punching down here, but it's definitely in the realm of like, gender roles are funny.
Uh-huh.
Oh, you're a man with a man's name. Uh-oh. Oh,
Yeah.
that's so silly.
Mm-hmm.
But it's we don't really dwell on it.
No.
It's just like a side gag.
Yeah. All right. So in our in our constant goal to cram pack this with 4 dozen characters, now we meet Sari and her daughter Dee Dee.
Yep.
This is Carrie Russell
Oh my
as the
God, she's the
mom.
best.
She's so good. Um, I'm not even gonna really get into the backstory of what their relationship is. This is kind of like this feels like the main characters of a story
Yes.
that get fully lost. Like
Yeah.
Carrie Russell is to Cocaine Bear what musical theater is to La La Land. Like it
Mhm.
starts with it, but then about halfway through the movie, you're like, what happened to all the musical numbers? And this one, halfway through this movie, I'm like, where's Sarah? Well, like, where's Carrie Russell and her daughter? Like, where is this story? And we only get like little 30-second snippets of them along the way.
And a lot of voiceover, I've noticed, especially like
Mm-hmm.
later on in the movie. It's just like beautiful shots of the Chattahoochee River and the Blue
Mm.
Ridge Mountains. And then Carrie Russell's voiceover comes in and be like, we've got to find her. She's leaving clues. Look, let's follow these clues.
And I'm not saying I'm mad about spending any time with like O'Shea Jackson Jr. or whoever, because he's great. I really like all of the characters and actors in this movie. Um, so Dee Dee is supposed to be going to school that day, but she bails on school with her friend Henry. What are these kids, like 9
Yeah. So or I think they say that
ish?
she's 13.
13? Okay.
Yeah.
Henry seems younger.
Maybe a bit.
He's tiny. And so they're bailing on 2 guys who don't have kids. I'm like, how old is this kid? She like
I don't know.
4? No, I think she's 16.
Can she make a martini? I don't know.
So they're going hiking into the woods, which we know is a bad idea.
Oh, unsupervised children in the woods.
Uh-huh. And they find a brick of cocaine in a bush. Um, and then they decide, well, how do you do cocaine?
Let's find out. And of
And
course,
they
Henry's like, well, normally when I do it on the streets
uh-huh.
with my friends, uh, this is very different than the cocaine I do on the streets with my friend.
Uh-huh.
And Dee Dee's like, oh yeah, here, show me.
Um, they decide that how you're supposed to consume cocaine is you're supposed to just eat it,
Mm-hmm.
like a spoonful of sugar.
That's it. Helps the cocaine go down.
Uh-huh. Which they both put a heaping tablespoon of cocaine into their mouth
Yes.
and then spit it out immediately.
Ooh,
Now,
makes your mouth so numb.
mm, I don't know. I've never done cocaine before. I do know that anything that goes in your mouth, I have eaten a heaping tablespoon full of instant coffee before, and I did
Uh-huh.
not sleep for weeks.
Uh-huh.
Because that shit goes right into your bloodstream, which is a very different effect than digesting something. And I feel like with cocaine, if you snort it, there's a lot of instant access to the bloodstream that the cocaine
Yes.
has in your
Mucous
nasal
membranes,
passages.
all
Yes.
that. Yeah.
They don't really do much with the kids being on coke. I know that they
I
spit most of
know.
it out, but I'm like, that's a lot of cocaine to coat your mouth with cocaine.
There's a
Uh,
moment where the gag is like these kids are like jacked up on jiggly juice,
uh-huh.
but it is a short-lived moment because Cocaine Bear shows up.
Yes. And it sneezes cocaine all over them.
Oh my goodness. I kind of wish that they had like there was like the Jaws
Mm.
soundtrack had kind of kicked in
Mm-hmm.
when Cocaine Bear is like on the loose in the
Yes.
area.
Yeah, we get little things where like, oh, they had brought along snacks. One of it was like a Ziploc bag full of carrots. And so they had left the carrots sitting on top of a thing, and you just see the bear's paw like grab the
Ah,
carrots. Yeah, so kids are gotten got.
yeah,
Uh okay, so now we're gonna meet Park Ranger Liz and the guy she's interested in, Peter. So she's the park ranger. Peter is a wildlife activist,
sure.
played played by Jesse Tyler Ferguson.
Yep. And Park Ranger is Margot Martindale, who is she is definitely of the like that actress.
Uh-huh.
You know, like she's in like August Osage County, but then also in like some TV movie of the week, and then also in like wasn't she in Hereditary as well? I think that was her.
Mm.
But like she is that actress where she's like she's funny, she's dramatic, she is character actor supreme,
Yes.
and gay men adore her.
Yes. She's incredible. She's absolutely incredible. Yeah. So it's all this like meet cute thing where she's trying to get ready to.
She's got her nails painted, she's
Yeah.
putting on perfume.
Yep. In the process of all of this, we meet I saw in the credit they list him as Stash, but I was just calling him Blondie throughout
Okay,
this. Oh
sure.
no, wait, this isn't Blondie, this is Skinny.
Oh
This
yeah,
is the
yeah.
skinny guy. But these fucking what do they call them? The douche champs?
Yes.
They are avant-garde visual artists skateboarding gang in the
Sure.
woods?
Yeah.
Okay.
They're just teenagers
Uh-huh.
who enjoy the petty theft and menacing people with butterfly knives in the park.
The butterfly knife is an incredible 80s thing. Like, I don't think
Yes.
I've seen a butterfly knife in a movie outside of the
Oh,
1980s.
those and nunchucks. Don't
Oh,
see
but
much of
just
those.
the
Yeah.
dexterity of flipping that shit around. I wanted to be awesome at butterfly knife when I was a kid.
Yeah.
It's like, oh man, can you imagine? Can you imagine all the wives I would have if I could do a butterfly
Oh
knife?
yeah. Just be like clack, 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 clack. Here, let me get that for you.
um, so we've got Sari showing up at the visitor center trying to get the park ranger Liz to be like, "Can you help me? The school called me and said my daughter never showed up, and I can tell that she went out for a hike on this.
Yeah.
Where is Blood Mountain?" They're like, "You're standing on it. This all is Blood Mountain."
But she loves this one waterfall. Is there a waterfall around here? She
Uh-huh.
loves to paint this waterfall.
So the comedy here is that you've got the jokester and the straight man. Liz and Peter are the jokester. Sari is the straight man. Sari has Sari. I don't think they ever say her name. It's just Sari in the credits. But Carrie Russell is absolutely like, I want to find my daughter. And the other two are like, oh my God, look at this. Chasing butterflies up the
Well,
hill.
and it's clear that like Park Ranger Liz is like looking forward to the arrival of Jesse Tyler Ferguson's Peter as a like she dolls herself up. She's I think at one point he's oh my God, the best gag in the entire movie in pound for pound. That is kind of a cutaway gag. But Peter says, "Oh, looks like you got a dusty beaver there." And she says, "I'm working on that."
So stupid. Hold on 2 seconds here. I am a little ill from
Oh
coming home from
no.
tour, so I've got the sniffles and the coughs.
You got the
Um,
ick.
Trying to mute my mic as much as possible for our YouTube viewers, where we don't edit,
I'm
uh,
not. I'm
don't
just
pare the thing down.
full on cocaine sneeze all over this microphone.
Also, I'm super high on coke.
Yep.
All right, so we get into a lot of this, like, they find the discarded carrots. So Carrie
Yes.
Russell is very much like, oh shit, this is definitely the snack Dee Dee would have taken.
Yes.
And Jesse Tyler Ferguson's all like, oh, this is littering.
Some bear is going to eat that. This might injure the wildlife.
To eat a carrot.
What to eat the plastic bag?
Eat the plastic bag, yes. Then they hear Henry calling for help, and they see that he has climbed up a very tall tree. I think the implication here is that cocaine gives you super strength.
Yes.
And so we'll see Peter in a second fall into a big batch of cocaine and then suddenly have the power to pull himself up a tree.
To climb up like a 60-foot tall tree.
Yes. Um, and now we've got Cocaine Bear on the loose after these people.
And Henry's like, there's something wrong with this bear. It's not just a
Uh-huh.
normal bear. It is a cocaine bear.
It is, yeah, it's the Peter shouting. It's like, no, bears are very peaceful creatures. You must have done something to it. Again, great horror movie device where we see a deer standing in the
Yes.
background, just chewing away on some plant, blah, blah, blah. And then the deer suddenly like goes upright and hauls ass away.
Uh-oh.
And that's when the bear attacks Peter, then attacks Liz. And this is where we realize Liz with her gun has zero training with firearm safety.
She does more damage in this movie than this bear does.
Yes. I am not a fan of guns, but knowing that they exist, I just would strongly encourage anyone who's going to ever have a gun to go through very intense gun safety, especially if you are any kind of officer of the peace.
Like she's just shooting it wildly into the woods. She doesn't even see the bear. Peter is like in her line of fire and he's like, why are you shooting at me? And she's like, get down. I'm shooting at ferns. I'm just shooting at these ferns, which, okay.
Okay.
Comedy.
Yes.
That's the thing about comedy is that like if you stop to think about it, oftentimes the ephemeral nature of comedy is sort of lost.
Yeah.
So you have these amazing actors, these amazing comedic actors doing this scene that is kind of ratcheted up by the ridiculous.
Yeah.
But I think that was what you were saying in your intro is that like just shush, don't no thoughts.
Yeah.
No thoughts, don't think.
I love the appeal of this movie, and I think it's really fun. And I don't think it's doing this movie justice to watch it alone. Just being like, all right, and for an assignment to talk about it critically, to talk about the film. So, take what I say about this movie. Like, there's probably a lot of people who absolutely love this movie. And so I'm not here to be like, no, you like a dumb movie. That's not it at all. This movie's fun as shit. I really enjoyed my time watching this movie. But I did have this feeling of like, I think this would have been a really amazing cartoon because its sensibilities are very cartoon-like.
Yes. Yeah.
And my sense of comedy is I love gags, right? Like writing Night Vale, it's jam-packed full of jokes that make no fucking sense whatsoever. Like that's the sensibility of my humor. So I do sort of get that vibe, but I think there's something in there's a little bit of honesty that has to happen in my mind for what's going on, and this park ranger character is so bonkers. The way she fires this gun, I'm like, I don't know if I'm finding this hilarious or offensive.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a lot.
But she leaves them. She gets kind of mauled by the bear. Like the bear kind of attacks her hindquarters
Hmm.
and kind of just like, I'm gonna run and get help. Goodbye.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Peter gets away from the bear and climbs up the tree next to Henry. So they're both 60 feet in the air.
Yeah, but not before face planting into another pile of cocaine. So now we've sort of everybody's on the same page.
Yep.
We can believe the kids that Cocaine Bear is in fact on cocaine.
Yep. And so he and Henry in these trees next to each other talking, and Henry's like, "Well, thank God bears can't climb trees."
Oh no. Oh, kiddo.
He's like, "Yes, they can." And that bear is coming after Henry to start. And of course, uh Carrie Russell's on the ground like, "Henry, you're gonna have to jump. Like, you got to get away from that bear." The bear at the last second smells the cocaine covering Peter's body, leaps across to that other tree, fucking gnaws his leg off.
I love it. I love it. And then does a line of cocaine off of his leg.
It's so stupid. I loved as it's like devouring his leg, he's hanging upside down. We don't actually see it gnawing his leg off, but we just see Jesse Tyler Ferguson hanging upside down, screaming as like blood is pouring down or up his shirt upside
Yeah.
down. And then we see the base of the tree, and then we just see his body go thump
Yeah.
from off screen.
Like the leg falls, his body
Yep.
falls. We're like, oh no. We're gonna accumulate quite a large body count for this
Uh-huh.
movie, which is why I think it does kind of deserve its sort of horror comedy horror
Yes.
stripes. Because man, a lot of people are gonna die. Not all
Uh-huh.
of them from Cocaine Bear.
Yeah. So Peter's done. I like Henry's comment later when, he gets off of that tree and runs away with Carrie Russell. He's he's got this very like precocious way of saying, he was like, um, that's something I probably should have never seen and hope to never remember.
But it seems like something a man remembers for the rest of his life.
That's
He's
it.
also has this like very, very funny sort of Southern accent coming
Uh-huh.
out, this very small child. It's like Forrest Gump-esque.
Yes. Okay, so let's talk about David and Eddie driving from St. Louis to Georgia, listening to
Yeah,
On the Wings of Love by Jeffrey
yeah,
Osborne, one of my favorite
it's a good one.
80s ballads of all time. I Eddie is crying because his dead wife Joan loved the song, and then Eddie says, "Joan said that Jeffrey Osborne sang with the soul of a 1,000-year-old man," and I
What?
laughed very hard at that line.
What?
It's so funny. Um, but yeah, that's the issue. That this movie is like that. That's the issue at hand with David and Eddie, right? Like we know they're friends, but
Yeah,
that David doesn't know what to do with Eddie's
yeah.
sadness. He doesn't know what to do with his sorrow. He just is trying to do his job and ignore his friend's pain.
And instead, they're going to play 20 questions, which David doesn't seem to understand how to play 20 questions. And this will be a running gag throughout
Yes.
the film.
Okay, so they arrive at Blood Mountain. Um, and when they stop at the visitor center, which has a closed sign up
Yeah.
because of Park Ranger Liz or whatever, David steps into the bathroom after this 14-hour car ride, and he is accosted by the trio of the Duchamps.
Uh-huh. And they're butterfly swap, 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 swap. Look, we got a knife. Swap, 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 swap. And David is nonplussed.
Uh-huh.
And he goes, like, this is some great comedy violence. Like, he takes these three guys down in like
Uh,
5 minutes.
It's got the classic setup of you have 3 against 1, so the
Yeah.
best way if there's 3 of us, Cecil, and we're fighting 1 person, I go first,
Hmm.
then you go, then
I'm
our
gonna
other
sit back
friend
and
goes.
watch. Yeah.
Yes,
See how
and
you do.
yeah, no, the 3 of us cannot attack him at once.
No. No.
We get a lot of, like, using the skateboard to smack people in the head.
Hmm.
Um, all of these men are dead, by the way. Like, they're not dead
I
in the
know.
movie, but I'm like, if this were a real fight, they're dead.
They're concussed as fuck.
You take a you take a skate if you've ever felt the weight and the heft of a skateboard, and you
Yeah.
imagine that going into your head swung by a person the way you swing a baseball bat,
Yeah.
you are not recovering from
Yeah.
that.
Or a sink, like a
Oh,
porcelain sink.
shit.
They get quite a bit of that.
Holy shit.
But they see that Blondie's got one of their bricks of cocaine.
Uh-huh.
So now they're gonna interrogate him.
Yeah, like, and the like, "Listen, you gotta show us where this is. This is way bigger than you."
Go
So
get my
they
gun. Get my gun from the car.
That's right. Um, all we know is he stashed it. Blondie tells them, "I stashed it in a gazebo. We're gonna go back and get it all later." And my dude, it was like 2 duffel bags. Like, you could have gotten that out of there.
I know.
Like, I don't understand why you
You had to
stashed it
stop at
in
the
a
ranger
gazebo.
station to pick up a lollipop? Like, what steal
Yeah,
like to steal money from the donation box?
which had maybe $18 in it, and
Tops? Yeah.
yeah. Uh, so now we've got Eddie, David, and Blondie trekking through
Hiking
the
hiking
woods.
up the same hiking up the same trail.
And I'm so confused by Blondie's character. Just the idea that, like, I'm a I'm a disaffected teenage violence maker who steals things and is bad, but then, like, as he's talking, it's just kind of has this, like, blithe 21st century therapied up spirit. You know
Yes.
what I mean? Like, there's a very, like, Gen Z vibe to him, which I understand. We're doing teenagers in 2023, even though
Yes.
it takes place in 1985.
I felt that a lot as well. Not just in the teenagers, but just sort of throughout. Like the way the comedy is written is so 2020s
Yes.
that like a lot of what they were saying, I was like, this is 1985. I don't know if what is going on here? I mean, like, sure, we put Kerry Russell in like a hot pink jogger jumpsuit,
Totally.
and we just assumed and like, somebody in some blue mascara, and we're like 80s.
Yes.
But the way they talk is like not 80s.
Yes.
I don't know. I felt they could have peppered in a little more like radical, awesome dude,
Yes.
like the language, but it's definitely got like UCB sketch comedy,
Yeah.
situational comedy, which is, it's got that sort of vibe.
Yeah. I think the thing is that all of these characters and all these devices are piling on each other, and
Mhm.
not everything is connecting. And so it's such a clusterfuck of jokes. And one of the jokes is that this we learn that this isn't just like violent disaffected youth. This is a very complicated kid, but we don't quite tie in how the complexity, like,
Yeah.
it just forces us to deal with, like, the disparate nature of the way he talks versus the way he behaves.
Yeah.
But the movie does not have time to give us any more information than those
No.
2 qualities in him. Um, all right, so now they're heading up the mountain with this kid, and it's clear that Eddie, sorrowful Eddie, and Blondie are kind of connecting on a
Yes.
level because Blondie is kind of saying this like very 21st century therapied up type of thing about listening to people, about being heard, about feeling your pain,
What
about
is it?
all of these
Like
things.
animals can listen, but only humans can hear?
Yeah.
You're like, oh, okay.
It's very funny. We had a joke in the touring Night Vale live show we just did of the attic where Cecil makes a reference to
Eugene the
Eugene
iguana.
the iguana, who's his therapist, who he sees at Petco and just talks to him
Because I
because
mean, he really knows how to listen.
yeah. And then here's this just sitting right here in
I
this
know.
movie. talking about lizards being great listeners. And I'm like,
See,
oh,
it's like 21st century sensibilities, but like
uh-huh.
set in a period piece. It's silly.
Okay, so let's get to back to the visitor center because
Yes. Oh yeah, here we go. Violent set piece. Here we go. Now we're back into our like berserker cocaine bear horror thriller.
Liz, who's been mauled by the bear but survives, and just is carrying this gun, just waving it around as she runs. She gets back to this visitor center with her like 45. Like this is a
Yeah.
revolver.
Yeah,
Like
yeah. This is like a dirty hairy gun.
it totally is.
Like this is a hand cannon. This is not a
Yes.
gun. I mean, it is a gun, but it's like a massive gun.
Uh-huh. So yeah, she gets back to the office, and the other two Duchamp boys are there. They are she's wanting to call for the police and medical services, and they are too, because both parties have been mauled, but these two boys were mauled by
David.
David. She was mauled by a bear, and they think they're talking about the same
I love it.
person. Yeah.
Comedy.
And then they hear something at the door. And so she's like, tells one of the boys, on three, you crack that door open. And she's got
Uh-huh.
her gun drawn. And when he does crack that door open, there is coked up bear sitting on the front porch.
But just like not even in attack mode, just like fully sitting on its haunches, just
Uh-huh.
being adorable. And she shoots, stunningly misfires, and shoots it right through the third Duchamp brother's head. Like
Right
you
through
can
his face.
see the hole through his noggin.
Unbelievable. And then his face is completely
Yeah.
exploded in blood. Like it is a Warner Brothers cartoon.
Yes.
Um,
And I think she says like, "I'm sorry," or like she tries to apologize. She's like, "But sorry, you shot his head." She's like, "I'm so sorry." No
uh,
takebacks.
I mean, it's the least you could do is apologize.
I know. Over the corpse of the innocent person you just shot. But that seems to trigger the bear, you know, because
Yeah,
now the bear is on like attack mode or at least hunt mode, I guess. Menace. Let's set to menace.
yeah, the bear is absolutely in full. Like the bear has been sparked back to life. This bear has like two settings of just dopey, drowsy,
Yeah.
and ready to fucking fight. And it goes from dopey, drowsy to ready to fucking fight. But we're gonna take a break from them because we're gonna talk about Bob, who's made it to Blood Mountain. And Bob the detective, has seen the pickup truck with the Missouri plates on
Yeah.
it,
He knows he's
which
on the
David and
trail.
Eddie came in on. And then he's going to head out into the woods to go try and figure out what's happening. But then the ambulance arrives, and these two these two paramedics get inside the visitor center. They just see blood and carnage
I know.
everywhere. One of them was like, I thought you said they called in a concussion. And he's like, they did.
Yeah. I love this. I love this gag with the stethoscope, like ratcheting up the suspense, the
Uh-huh.
thriller suspense. So you've got the kind of the guy paramedic is like inching his way toward the closed door that we of course know contains Cocaine Bear.
Uh-huh.
And Ranger Liz is, just beside herself on the ground. And the female paramedic is trying to like, get her heartbeat. And we can hear her heartbeat accelerate. And she drags it to her mouth and just goes, "There." Amazing. Like, and that's where I'm like, fuck you, Elizabeth Banks. You're too goddamn talented.
uh
Like that whole sequence is everything I want out of a horror comedy.
yes. And the action sequence, I think this is the big set piece here. This
Yeah.
is so stupid and funny. It's like, I said earlier, like I would have loved to have seen this as a cartoon, but this is one of the most effective, like cartoonishly live action movies I've ever seen.
Yes.
And so first off, So they're scrambling to get out, but before they realize what's happening, it's when the male paramedic opens the door to like the broom closet because he hears
Yeah.
something in there. And the first thing that happens is a bucket falls down with the other Duchamp boy's head in it.
Yeah. Yeah.
At this, bear set all of this up.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
The bear like knocks the door off its hinges and lands on top of him. He uses a stray bag of cocaine that he grabs off the ground to distract the bear.
Well, no, I think the bear sees the paramedic bags that are
Oh,
also red and is
that's
like,
it.
oh, there must be cocaine in that bag. And that kind of
That's it.
distracts them long enough. Meanwhile, the paramedics got we've got Ranger Liz in, she's all strapped in, and he's like, drive, drive. Like it's very, action comedy.
Yes.
But sure enough, that bear is pissed that it is given a decoy.
Yes.
And this bear is chasing this like ambulance going 60 miles an hour through the mountains.
Um, a black bear can run upwards of 30 miles per hour.
Sure. I believe it.
So I did have this moment where I'm like, there is no way that bear could catch that fucking
No,
ambulance. But to be fair, on those small winding roads, it's a good chance that ambulance cannot get to 30 miles an hour.
that's true.
So,
But you know,
listen,
but
I'm
you
not
know
here
the
for realism. I'm just here for the fact that this bear is fucking hauling ass
like a
after them.
hauling ass. But here's the thing: the most dangerous is still Ranger Liz with that fucking gun.
Because she's shooting out the back with male paramedic hanging onto the doors, being like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah. Oh,
I,
Ranger Liz.
I'll give Ranger Liz some credit, though, because when we get to the end of this movie, I'm like, why is nobody thinking about shooting this bear?
Yes.
It's such a confusing ending where everyone has a rifle and
Yeah.
nobody is shooting the bear.
Yes. Because bears are cute.
I guess.
And we have a hard enemy. We have a hard villain in Ray Liotta Sid.
Uh,
We have a soft villains in Eddie and David, and they absolutely draw the line with shooting cute animals.
yes. Well, this bear in
Don't kick the dog, Jeffrey. Don't
I know,
kick the
I
dog.
know. Well, we get to this per my background here on Zoom, that we get to the moment of this bear launching
Love it.
itself in slow motion into the back of
Amazing.
the ambulance. So good.
With like
Um
80s music blasting. I think it's like Depeche Mode or something is like blasting in the background.
incredible.
Everyone dies.
Yeah, so the male paramedic who's in the back with Liz basically just gets
He
shredded.
gets eaten.
He gets eaten. We see his
Ranger Liz goes like out the back.
and
The
she's
female paramedic gets like launched through the windshield.
yeah, it's amazing. Okay, so now Blondie, David, and Eddie have reached the gazebo, but somehow Bob is already there.
And has already claimed the cocaine
And
and
I'm a
is on
little
top. I actually think this is some of the funniest comedy to me. This is where like this was, I think, the scene, like a lot of this scene I had like was in the trailer or something that I was like, oh, this movie's going to be hilarious as fuck because it's like this sort of back and forth. So it's like high stakes. You've got a cop and a drug dealer with guns drawn on each other, but you also have the kind of the peanut gallery, the like Eddie and Blondie are kind of like giving snarky,
uh-huh.
cowardly comedic side comments on everything, just takes all the like seriousness out of it. And I was like, oh, okay, this is amazing.
Yeah. I couldn't help but to wonder, like, how did Bob know to go to the gazebo? Like, I think they set up that he just
He
happened
just
upon the
he was
gazebo
just
and
wandering around and he happened to sit down and see a bag on top of the gazebo. He says he climbed a tree and jumped over
yes.
onto the gazebo and then can't get his way down. And this is where like Isaiah Whitlock is just so funny in that he's like, huh, mm, uh, I'm just looking for it, like just looking for a way to climb down here. It is also another a second where like he's by himself and he's trying to figure out how to get on top of the gazebo.
Uh-huh.
to get to the cocaine. And it's just watching him standing on a picnic table, just like reaching his arms in the air, and he jumps like an inch and a half. He's like, well, that's not gonna work. Just so silly. So silly.
It's very, very funny. Yeah, but we have this showdown of like we've got guns drawn between him and
Yeah.
David. Tells David to put his gun down. Like, this cocaine's mine. Obviously, like, David has to get this cocaine to Sid because David doesn't want to get murdered by the cartel.
Yeah.
Sid doesn't want to get murdered by the cartel. Bob is trying to be a good detective and be like, no, 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 we cannot have this cocaine in the world. There's a moment where David tries to reach for his gun and Bob shoots his fingers off, and it's like his
But like
it's like his
non-consecutive
index,
fingers. Yeah, yeah,
or it's like I think it's his middle and his pinky.
yeah. He's like, how did he even do that? Those fingers aren't even next to each other.
Yeah. It's a very funny gag. Then the bear shows up and is in bumbly stumbly mode.
Yeah, because the bear's so tired.
So tired, it's a lot of cocaine.
I know you have to. You got to pass out and eat some
Yeah.
greasy food when you get up.
And it basically walks over the top of Eddie, who's laying down,
Playing dead.
playing dead, and just collapses onto him.
Okay. Now this is where I was like, this is dumb.
Uh-huh.
I was like, this is what? What is this gag? This
Yes.
bear, and of course, like, we hear Eddie underneath just being like, I'm fine, I can breathe on here. They're like, maybe we should just leave him. He's like, this bear. This is not how bears really look. I just want to point out, this
Yes.
bear, like when you actually like see the bear up close, it's so fluffy and pretty. And bears are smelly and covered in poop and
Yes.
mud. Bears are not like, they're not like labradoodles, okay?
No. They are not. They also are like generally a black bear is absolutely not this big.
No.
They are not very big animals. Like I said, like they are just giant
Like
raccoons.
170 pounds, like tops.
Yeah, like 300 is probably what you're talking. I mean, like they're as hefty as like a hefty person. You know what
Okay,
I mean?
yes.
Like they can get pretty big, but
Yeah.
generally speaking, if you're talking about a 250 to 300 pound bear, is what you're dealing with. And so I'm like, one, you can get this bear off of this man.
Yeah.
Two, he's so just imagine a man laying down prone, face down.
Yeah.
The bear flops on top of him in the exact same position. So
Yes.
head on head, butt on butt,
Yeah.
leg on leg, arm on arm. And there's a moment where David calls the bear a boy, and you can hear Eddie say, "It's a girl." And he's like, "How do you know that?" And he says, "Because its vagina is on my ear." And I'm like, "What is this joke?"
What? Yeah.
Like, where is a bear's vagina is not on its chin.
It's not in its chest. Unless this is like alien cocaine bear.
Yes.
Mutant cocaine bear. Yeah, I was like, what? There is some continuity issues with this film. Again, following the funny is great in short format. In 30 Rock,
Yes.
25-minute comedy.
Uh-huh.
But sometimes when you gotta stretch it out to a feature film, it does lose some of its elasticity.
I can always sort of tell like where I'm at with a movie of how many breaks I take during it.
Yeah.
And this is a 90-minute movie that I took 2 breaks during it because I just
wow.
was like, to me, and this is just my own personal taste, I was just like, it was too much rapid fire jokes. It felt way longer than 90 minutes to me. And it was moments like this where I'm like, okay, we forced the joke in. And I think it's, for me, it's a speed bump for the momentum of the film. But okay, so we get what happens is that we distract the bear with the cocaine.
Yes.
Which is what Bob does. Bob has figured this out. Like, throws the cocaine.
Like, this bear loves coke.
Yeah. Throw it in the woods. Bear goes running after it. Then in another showdown with David, with the guns drawn, Bob is shot from a distance by Sid with a rifle.
Oh, Sid is on the scene. We have our true evil villain.
Yep. And then Sid has to tell Eddie, like, you can't leave. The thing is, they're not just going to kill me. They're going to kill you and your son and everyone. Our whole family is involved in this business. So that's the connective tissue as to why you have to care about what's happening here and
Yeah.
why we have to get the cocaine back.
Blondie runs away. He's out of the
Uh-huh.
scene. And we think backup has arrived.
Because
Officer
Reba
Reba
show
shows up, but she turns, and apparently she's been in on the drug deal the whole time.
This is where I paused to go make dinner. I was like, what on
Jeffrey,
earth is going on? This makes no sense whatsoever.
no.
This
What?
is like
There's
a note
corrupt
for
cops. There's corrupt cops aiding drug cartels in law enforcement.
I it's just this is like a kid playing with dolls, being like, doop de doop, talking to you, talking. Oh, you just make up
You're like,
whatever you
I'm
want
bad
with
now. I'm so bad.
yeah, it's
Now I'm
just
good. I'm good, Ash. I'm bad, Ash.
and I think for me, like, this doesn't make sense in the story, let alone serve it. Uh Two, like there's no comedy to this at all.
Yeah.
There's no like, oh, okay, well, sometimes oh, I know it's a girl because its vagina is on my ear. Like, it's
Mm.
clearly just a
Gag.
joke.
It's
It's
a
a
gag.
gag, and you're like, it doesn't need to be literal. This plot point makes 0 sense whatsoever at all. Um, she's not been in this movie except in the opening scene where she talks about how much she loves her Labrador Retriever and
Yeah.
Bob gets jealous. Okay.
But
Okay, I
Bob
got to
dies. But like, yeah, Cop
yeah,
Bob, he dies on top of this gazebo.
yeah. Um, I also just wrote like, why is this part of the story? That's my note here. And it makes no sense. Okay, so now we've got these. So David, Eddie, and Sid are now on the hunt for the cocaine. Uh, Blondie's out of the picture till
Yeah.
later. Now we're with Dee Dee and Harry for the first time in 2 hours, and
Yeah.
we are. Dee Dee has, or I'm sorry, yeah, Harry and Carrie Russell looking for Dee Dee.
Yeah.
Dee Dee has left a trail of paint for
Yeah.
her
That's
mom.
smart. Yeah.
Yeah,
Like she's kind of leaving little tracks of paint and sweatshirts and things
yeah.
through the woods. Great.
Um, we do get a shot of Dee Dee in a cave,
Mhm.
so we know she's okay. Um, I'm just curious why the bear is holding her captive, or why she's stuck in the cave.
Yeah.
I, I,
Like the bear
you
is
can,
clearly out, like doing other things.
yeah, it
Just
makes
leave, girl.
0 sense.
Yeah.
Um,
They run into Olaf, who is like hilarious in his distraught,
uh
terrified nature, but also still very, Scandinavian in his practicality.
yes,
Um, I gotta say, so this actor is from, very popular Game of Thrones actor, but he's also like a brand ambassador for like a major chain of hotels. And we stayed at a couple of these hotels, and he's like got this like kind of Willy Wonka-esque persona that was like plastered on every wall and every elevator of this hotel we stayed at. And I was like, what is this? What is this? So I love this actor, but I also have like a strange visceral reaction to him.
yes. Um, yeah, he's pretty incredible. Yeah, it's this is the first moment where I realized all of this movie is taking place in a day
Yes. Yeah.
because
Yeah. No, it has to.
he's
Like
still
it's,
in the woods
yep. He's still in the woods after the bear
mourning
attack in the
his
morning.
yes.
The kids went out to go paint the waterfall and they wanted to get there before lunch.
Yes.
And now dusk is starting to set in. So now we've got kind of, because they need a flashlight to go into the cave. We hear Olaf get got by the bear
Mhm.
outside, off screen death.
Yep.
But the bear cubs are just like rolling around in cocaine
In this
because
cave. Yep.
because who doesn't love rolling around in cocaine, I suppose.
Yes.
But that forces the family trio to go further into the cave, which opens onto a massive waterfall
Uh-huh.
in very is this nature? What set is that? Like this is this is the height of pandemic filmmaking. I don't know. There's movies that were made during the pandemic. I felt were very like there's almost a thumbprint on them because like I said, there's a lot of voiceover over top of B-roll. because it was
Mm-hmm.
a way that people could film and, kind of story tell without having people on set next to each other. Like there's, but like you could kind of tell when this movie goes from on set to set piece. And this waterfall set is like something straight out of Lord of the Rings
Yes.
in its fantastic nature that does not really fucking exist in the woods. You asked me if I'm a mountain guy. I'm like, this is a delightful set piece, but this is pure Hollywood fabrication.
Yes. There's that sense of like this like these woods are so vast. It's so expansive. Like that's how national parks be, you know?
Yeah.
And it is funny how everyone kind of ends up at the exact same locations
I was like, how did they find this cave?
in the same day.
Yeah.
Um, because while they're in there seeing the baby bears getting into the cocaine and they're recovering Dee Dee, she's just got like kind of a roughed up leg. Maybe
Yeah.
it's
Well, I guess that's the reason why she can't leave is because she can't really walk on her legs. So she's
yeah,
sort of hiding in place.
yes. But it's not like a compound fracture or whatever, so she can kind of
She's also
move.
13. So
She's
she's,
also yeah,
kid. She's a kid.
yeah, indestructible. Okay, so they go out the back of the cave. They're behind the waterfall now. Somehow these waterfalls are like 80 feet up.
Yeah. Which that happens a lot. They're very tall waterfalls, but usually the taller the waterfall, the less force the waterfall has. So this like rushing mountain waterfall is like, I was like, I don't know, maybe.
Yeah,
Okay, maybe.
maybe. So they're on this little ledge, and then this is where Sid and his two boys come out onto the ledge. And they
They
found some
find
coke. They find some coke in the
yeah,
cave, but they're like, we got
Sid
to keep
wants
looking.
more.
Yeah,
He
we got to
wants
get
more.
all of it. Reba is like, hey, y'all, I'm done. I got to go.
Yeah.
And he
Yeah.
draws a rifle on her, but it's David who steps in front of him to stop him from shooting her. Which I'm like, no, you drew in law enforcement to help with your operation, and that law enforcement is leaving. You're gonna have to dispose of the law enforcement.
Yeah. There's
Um,
no walking away from this.
no, no, there really isn't. And he just kind of lets her go because David
Yeah.
is in the way. I'm like, no, no, no. Both of you are dead now.
Yeah. I feel like Sid would have just killed them all.
Yes.
Except maybe Eddie. And even that father-son relationship seems tenuous at best.
So they come across Carrie Russell and the two kids, shocked to see them. Like, what are you doing here? They got the weapons
They're
drawn
like,
on
we're
them.
trapped by Cocaine Bear.
Okay, this is so confusing. So Sid has a rifle.
Yeah.
These two bear cubs are coming at him. He has no qualms with like kicking these bears. So obviously, you kick the dog, you're a bad guy.
Yeah.
Pretty simple. We already know he's bad, so we just tack this on at the end of the movie. And then he tells his men, shoot them. He is holding a rifle. He's like, shoot,
He's like, I can't
shoot
get the
them.
angle to shoot
No,
these bears.
incorrect. Incorrect. Um, so he then tosses the rifle to David to tell him to shoot them. David doesn't catch it, so it lands in Carrie Russell's hands. She cocks the gun and points it at him and is like, I am leaving with my kids.
Yes. In a definite like Cocaine Bear human parallel. So we've got like Mama Bear and her two cubs, and we've got Carrie Russell and her two cubs, her two
Yeah.
wards, her daughter and her, daughter's friend.
So you know what you know what she does here in any rational situation, if this were to actually happen, is you have the gun drawn on these three men and you say, get your ass back in that cave. We're marching out of here.
Yeah.
Put your hands on the back of your heads. I'm
Yeah.
marching you out. We're going out through this cave. We're going down.
Yeah.
If we see the bear, we shoot the bear, but I'm getting my kids out of here. No, what she decides to do is just ditch the gun and dive with the two
Jump.
kids.
Yeah.
Like, lady, you do not know how deep that water is below.
No.
And also, an 80-foot drop into water is almost like an 80-foot drop onto land because
Yeah.
surface tension will fuck you up.
Yeah. We're going Last of the Mohican style. Just like
Ah,
just jump off a waterfall. It seems like the only natural.
but that's what they do. So kids, do not jump. Do not jump off of waterfalls, is what I'm saying.
Don't go jumping waterfalls.
Yep. I should write a song about that. So she jumps. Also,
They're out.
Eddie and David jump, but David gets shot in the process
Yeah.
by Sid, who was shooting at the bear.
Again, nobody can shoot anything in this movie
No, except random
except the
bystanders.
person that they're not aiming at.
Yes.
But
So
the
now,
sound of the sound of the distressed bear cubs calls Mother Bear,
yep.
who is super pissed.
And Sid manages to shoot the bear and she falls down to the rocks below. We're like, oh no, he killed the bear because Sid is now like reaching for this other bag that's hung up on a tree branch. But a Coke brick falls out of it, bursts open, reviving Cocaine
Oh
Bear
my God.
to then leap 60 feet back upwards and hang Sid by the strap
Yeah.
of the duffel.
Uh-huh.
And then, like, with a
Cuts open his belly.
finger, slices open his belly.
And the two bear cubs gleefully pull out his intestines. Like they are literally bear giggling.
Yep. Oh,
Like it's like
yes.
it is Easter Sunday, and these bears have discovered a chocolate Cadbury egg.
Uh-huh. Unreal. Um, Poor David is now lying on the shore of this
Yeah.
lake or whatever below, and he's bleeding out, and he and Eddie are kind of having a moment together where they're like, I always loved you, pal.
No,
And
leave me. No,
yeah.
no, you'll make it, man. Carrie Russell comes over. This is also where like you set up she's a nurse, and then like this is the only nursing she does the entire
Uh-huh.
film. And she's like, put pressure on the wound. Oh, is that it? Oh,
Oh,
okay.
yep.
Never mind the fact that we've got, I don't know, couple miles, 4 or 5 miles to go to get
Uh-huh.
back to anything.
So that leaves us to believe that they're gonna be okay, and she and the kids are gonna be okay.
Also, how do they know where they are? Have you ever gotten lost in the like people die like this? But
Yeah.
it's you know what? Shush, 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 shush,
Uh-huh.
shush, shush, shush. They all fall. They all fall. They jump off a waterfall. They all live.
Yes. Um, Next morning in the parking lot, so we assume it took them all night to get out of there.
Yeah.
Next morning in the parking lot, Reba is like she's been taking care of Bob's dog, but
Yeah.
Bob is dead. And my question is to Reba, what are you going to write in your report
Yeah.
about what happened here? Because your lead detective in your department is shot to death on a gazebo surrounded by bags of cocaine.
Yeah.
You were there. What were you going there for? What was your directive? Why were you
Just go
there?
there for backup.
Yeah? Okay. All right. It's very interesting because she didn't go with him
Yeah.
to begin with and then shows up. I don't know. Um, Whatever rolls down, because the other thing we set up is that we're on the Georgia side of things and they are
Uh-huh.
Knoxville cops.
Yeah, I know. Outside jurisdiction
So I'm like,
here.
what were you doing down
Yeah.
there? This seems like a case for the FBI more
Hmm.
than local Knoxville Police
Yeah.
Department.
For real.
Anyways, she just lets the dog out of the car, walks it over to Eddie and being like, this dog's yours now. Her name's Rosette. Great.
Catharsis?
I guess. I This is just like tying up loose ends, but like a
What's
lot
the
of time
it's the whole I think it goes back to the story that like Blondie was telling Eddie about like, when I was a kid, my mom got me an iguana and I realized that I really love that iguana, but you have to love people. You can't just love animals. People can listen, people can hear you. Animals
uh-huh.
just sort of listen.
Uh-huh.
And this is the whole thing with like kind of the catharsis of we know he's going to go back. He gives Rosette to his son,
Uh-huh.
repackaging that relationship. David is okay.
Yeah.
Their friendship is mended. All of our sorrows have washed away. Bad grandpa has been eaten by bears.
Uh-huh.
Happy endings for all who deserve it.
And Carrie Russell and the kids have walked back home. They see
They find the
they
like
see
bot.
Liz's body
Oh
on the
my
road.
god. But it's like flipped over and he's like, I really want to turn it over. Everyone, she's like, no, don't look, don't
Oh
look. You
look.
don't want to see. I really want to look. No, you don't want to look.
And then we're at credits and we have a couple of credits scenes. Blondie has saved a duffel bag of cocaine and is
Mhm.
hitchhiking
To New York City.
to New York City, which is funny because he throws the bag in the bed of the pickup truck, which is filled, or the flatbed, which is filled with sheep,
Yeah.
and then thinks better of it. And it's like, no, I'm going to
Agre-
keep this in the cab with me.
I love it. I love it because everybody is thinking like, oh my god, is there going to be a cocaine sheep, black sheep?
And then Eddie Eddie gets reunited with his son Gabe. He's got the dog, and the dog is chewing on something. And they're like, "What's he chewing on?" And it was David's fingers that Eddie
Oh,
had saved when they got shot off.
as he said, they're not going to attach those things.
No.
Like you've gone through like mountain water.
Yep.
No, no, I think it's a lost cause with those fingers.
Yep. The end. Shall we rate this movie?
Yes, let's.
All right. So if you're horror movie averse, like how approachable is Cocaine Bear? On a scale of 1 to 10, one being like the least approachable, 10 being like super approachable for the horror averse. I mean, I'd give Cocaine Bear like 7 out of 10 Norwegian hikers. It's very gory.
Yeah,
It's not scary. I think if you take it kind of seriously, it's very tragic. Like it's super depressing to watch sort of innocent people get fucked up, but it's also cartoonish. It just depends on where your mindset is. If you roll with the
yeah,
comedy, it's probably even more approachable than 7 out of 10. It's just cartoonishly gory and silly. I think a movie for a group rather than just like a solo here, let me take in this Oscar nominated film type of
yeah. No,
vibe.
this is more snakes on a plane territory than
Yes,
anything else.
100%. Um, but I think it's super approachable. I think it's really fun. There's a good chance that even if you're horror averse, you've probably seen this because I think it is comedy first, horror second. So that's where I'll give Cocaine Bear 7 out of 10 for approachability. But for you, Cecil, how do you rate this movie as just a horror film?
As a horror film, this one's, I gotta say, it's pushed down pretty low. Definitely
Uh-huh.
comedy first. Some of the horror beats are there, but they're so peppered throughout. It's like 4 out of 10.
Mm-hmm.
Red duffel bags.
Uh-huh.
A lot of fun as a comedy, but as a
Yeah.
horror, meh.
Meh. Yeah, of course. Fun movie. Good times. Let's figure out what movie we will watch next. You have a scare die, I have a style die. We'll roll those up and see what movie matches those two things. So, Cecil, if you roll a 1, our next movie scare has to be isolation. 2, mythological. 3, aquatic. 4, bad mom slash bad dad. 5, occult. Or 6, body horror is our scare.
That's a 6.
All right, we're gonna get that body horror we've always wanted.
Bodies are so icky.
Ew. All right, so now we're gonna match up your body horror roll with whatever I roll on our style die. If we roll a 1, our style is it has to be something from the Southern Hemisphere, produced in a Southern Hemisphere country. 2, wild card, whatever body horror we want. 3, a black and white film. 4, a cult film, not about a cult, but a cult following. 5, a low budget film, or 6, a sci-fi film. So let's see what our style is. I too rolled a 6. We've got sci-fi
Ooh.
body horror. There's no
Oh,
way.
strong. We've got some strong contenders
There's no
here.
way we can find any movies that match up. All right, you wanna go over the ones that we have on this list, that we put down, and then we can also check our letterboxed as well, and see what folks there had to say about body horror meets sci-fi.
First up, we have a movie called Crimes of the Future, which I do not know this movie.
This is David Cronenberg's film from 22 or
That's
23.
it.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about, like, I know it, I remember it vaguely coming out, and everybody was like, oh, okay, this movie is definitely very intense. We also have Possessor.
This is David Cronenberg's son.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Imagine getting the Cronenberg family on sci-fi body horror.
Oh my God. Crazy, right? We have Slither, which is a classic. This is definitely Slither is one that is true horror comedy. So it's
Uh-huh.
like definitely leans into the horror, but has some funny beats to it.
This is Nathan
Um,
Fillion, I think, is in this
yeah,
movie, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
And actually, I think Elizabeth Banks is in this movie.
Oh, I
I
think you're
think.
right. Yeah.
Yeah. So like clearly kind of the inverse of what we just watched.
Mm-hmm.
We also have The Color Out of Space, which is a sort of Nicolas Cage Lovecraft body horror trapped in a house with unspeakable space alien molecules or something.
Yeah.
We also have Altered States, which is a Ken Russell joint from the 70s, if I remember right, about somebody who takes LSD and then is put into a sensory deprivation tank. And that's about all I know, and regresses to some sort of altered state of consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
We also have the perennial cult classic Frankenhooker, which I have never seen, by the way.
I haven't either. Our
I think it was Bree
Bree
Williams.
Williams loves
Yeah,
Frankenhooker.
yeah,
Yeah.
recommended that one. We also put on their Street Trash, which is sort of the like 80s. There's like toxic ooze that is like making Vietnam vets and homeless people turn into mutants.
Uh-huh.
But this is definitely a Mondo, late night kind of. We're getting like more like I love how we start with like the Cronenberg family, and we're getting more and more like you know late night video as we get on here.
Yes.
However, we're going to circle it right back around to another early Cronenberg in Scanners,
Yeah.
which is definitely body horror, definitely sci-fi, and very serious, and just has a lot of people just staring at each other until their heads explode.
I love all of that. So I'm gonna tell you what's on our letterboxed. I'm not gonna get through all of these just because we have so many.
Oh my God.
Um, so we've definitely got a few people bringing up Scanners.
Yeah.
A few people bringing up, another one, Brandon Cronenberg's Antiviral is a recent film as
Yes.
well. The 1988 The Blob is one.
Yeah.
Um,
I've never seen any of the Blobs, like the original or the remake. None of them.
uh-huh. I know I've seen the original. I didn't see the 1988 version, but that came from Katie. Um, Katie also throws out Alien.
Sure.
There's
Definitely
definitely,
sci-fi, definitely
absolutely.
body horror.
Um, King and Commoner gives us the Human Centipede, of course.
Yeah.
I mean, absolute Mad Scientist is
Mad
truly
scientist.
sci-fi.
That science is definitely fiction.
Ganymede's Cup, also seconds Altered States. Um, Not Amy Adams, second Slither, and also
Mhm.
throws out Infinity Pool from
Oh
2023.
yeah,
I've
sort of
heard of this, but I
very
don't know.
very stylish, like sort of like almost has like a 1960s kind of stylish Mad Men sort of vibe, but it's like essentially if you like the main character does something very bad, and instead of getting punished, they like apparently are growing doppelgangers of people. I don't know,
Oh shit.
something body farm-esque
Okay,
happens.
okay, great. Destination Hellmouth gives us Psycho Gorman, which is kind of horror comedy sort of thing.
Oh, I don't know this one at all.
This movie comes up a lot. I see it on our like Patreon list sometimes, a horror
Okay.
comedy with a lot of fun practical effects
Ooh,
in which a
fun.
child gains the ability to control a murderous, all-powerful alien.
Uh-oh.
It looks really fun and disgusting. Weaponized Toaster gives us Bad Taste.
Oh yeah,
Peter
definitely
Jackson.
sci-fi,
Yep.
definitely body horror, and all the gloopy gloppy from Peter Jackson.
Uh-huh. BGH Letters gives us Akira.
Yeah, classic.
Yes. Okay, so Suspicious Beans throws out the remake of Invasion of the Body Snatchers from 78.
Amazing. That 1978 with Leonard Nimoy is so flippin' good.
Fifth Hammer gives us Dr. X from 1932.
Ooh, I don't know this
I don't
one.
know this. Reporter Lee Taylor is doing a piece on a series of grisly cannibalistic murders committed under a full moon.
I
Police.
misread. I just want to say I misread that, and I thought it said grisly murder, cannibalistic murders committed on the moon. I was like,
Yes.
it's killing people and eating people on the moon.
And then also Hammer Horror's Curse of Frankenstein. Fifth
Ooh,
Hammer gives us
fun.
that too. Um, oh, Cap'n gives us Tetsuo the Iron Man,
Yeah,
of course.
very sci-fi body horror.
Ryan gives us Bride of Reanimator and From
Yeah.
Beyond,
Yes.
both Lovecraftian. Um, a few people jumping in, seconding Tetsuo the Iron Man, which I think is incredible. Like, I think when I hear body horror, if I'm not thinking Cronenberg, I think my mind goes to Tetsuo.
Yeah.
Um, we've also got uh M. Reed Lobato gives us the Quatermass
Hmm.
series,
Yeah.
which last I checked are not available in
Oh
the US.
no.
They're
Okay.
these like older British sci-fi-ish sort of
Yeah.
series, but uh yeah, that's sort of interesting. Um let's see here. We've also got a few people throwing out support for District 9,
Yeah.
which is a South
Definitely
African
sci-fi. Ooh,
film.
the
Yeah.
sci-fi is definitely strong there.
And when I first saw that, I was like, but is it body horror? Oh, it absolutely is body horror because we are
Yeah.
watching a person transform.
Yeah.
Um, so, more for Crimes of the Future. We've also got Emily Bean throws out Splinter from 2008. There's a creature that takes over people and it infects all it touches. Spoilers for what that means for the body horror aspect.
Ooh, fun.
That's
That sounds
exciting.
like fun.
Oh, and then hold on 2 seconds here. The print is so small I had to take my glasses off to read my screen.
You gotta get your bifocals on.
I do. Mage Sparrowhawk throws out Repo the Genetic Opera,
Oh, totally.
which we still haven't gotten to on this show.
Very body horror, very sci-fi, and a
Yeah.
musical.
Oh my god, yes. So it's going to be tough to narrow this down. The question is, what
Good
are we
night.
in the mood for? Do we want
Yeah.
something arty? Do we want something funny? Do we
Uh-huh.
want something campy? Something old?
Do we want
Something
something
new?
like, yeah, something old, something new, something borrowed,
Uh-huh.
something gloopy
Goo.
gloppy?
Yeah.
Yeah, something goo.
um, do we want something that's more of like a classic, like The Blob or Invasion of the Body Snatchers? Do we want
Sure.
something that is more like contemporary new film, like
Uh-huh.
Antiviral, Possessor?
Yeah.
Um,
Which happens to be more intense. I think
yeah.
after the comedy of Cocaine Bear, I think I'm in the mood for not necessarily like bleak, but I want like okay, we rolled sci-fi. So let's go hard into the science, the sciencey wyancy
Yes.
of it. So things that are popping out to me are Tetsuo, District 9, Akira, um, even some of the Lovecrafty sciency wyancies, Color Out of Space. Although that's like science fiction. I mean, fucking Alien, the original OG Alien, we've not watched
Uh-huh.
for this show, and that is like the horror movie that launched 1,000 thesis papers on
Uh-huh.
monster horror.
Uh-huh.
I also love kind of the idea of like altered states if we want to go a little more like mental trippy.
Uh-huh.
Man,
Uh,
we have so
but we
many
also had
options.
Frankenhooker, which is
Frankenhooker, yeah.
camp a cult classic.
Yeah. Now, considering we have cult classic on the dice, I'd
Mhm.
say let's maybe push some of the campy ones like Slither, Frankenhooker, Street Trash, off to the side a
Yes.
bit.
Um,
However, there's also like the 1988 The Blob. Is that horror? Is that body horror, or is that like just people running away from
I mean, it's a
Jello?
blob that consumes
Consumes
people, and
people.
then
Yeah,
I don't know how much the original 50s one
it's just people going.
is, and then they get
Yeah,
swallowed. I don't know
classic
if the 80s
1950.
one shows a body like dissolving into the blob or how that
Yeah,
works, but, um, and then we've got, hold on, also there was, so here's a few that I have, like Tetsuo,
right.
District 9,
Yeah,
Akira,
yeah,
Alien,
yeah,
Altered States,
yeah.
Scanners,
Scanners. Oh, very body horror. Yeah, because oh yeah. I would also throw like maybe something new like Infinity Pool.
Oh
It got kind
yeah.
of like okay ratings. Like it's kind of maybe more style over substance, but I think there's something to be said for that and has
Yeah.
Alexander Skarsgård, who is always super yummy to watch.
Uh-huh.
Do we think we have Invasion of the Body Snatchers? Like
Oh yes.
that's definitely science fiction and it's definitely body horror. It's I mean, like we've got some heavy hitters here.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. So out of this sort of list that we have right here, Tetsuo, Akira, Alien, and Body Snatchers.
Yeah.
Those are all movies that are heavily talked about. I mean,
They feel
they are
like
in the canon of
yeah.
horror movies you have to see, or
Yeah.
sci-fi-ish movies that you have to see. Uh, which is can be fun to do. Like it's
Yeah.
fun to talk about Jaws or The Shining or
Yeah.
whatever. And um I'm really curious about Altered States. Like I think deep down I want to see Akira or Alien. I've never seen Scanners and I've never seen Tetsuo.
You know what? You know, when I was a teenager, Scanners was one of the movies that actually got me into horror films
Oh,
because
interesting.
it's so like acting forward and like the Cronenberg like ness of it all was just like unlike anything I had ever seen.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting.
I'm not saying it's a great film,
No.
but it had but it was the film that I was like I'm watching something that I just can't roll into the movie multiplex and just see a dime a dozen version
Yeah.
of.
Okay, so one option I could give you is we have 8 films that we just listed there.
Okay.
I do have an 8-sided die. We could roll that. Or we could narrow
Oh,
this down a little bit more and just say, I know the movie I want to see. All of
I
these are equally excited for.
I
I
know.
mean,
Like, how do you put like Alien versus Invasion of the Body Snatchers with like
yeah,
Jeff Goldblum and Leonard Nimoy?
yeah,
Like these are some heavy hitters.
yeah.
Do we
And
think we should do?
Infinity Pool, I don't know shit about, but I'd be excited to see it
Yeah,
based
I've
off of
not
how.
seen it. I've
Yeah.
kind of like edged myself with I'm like, oh, maybe I'll watch a preview. Maybe I
Uh-huh.
won't. Oh no.
Yeah, so do we want to just say this is the one I want to see, or do you want me to roll for it?
Now let's roll it up.
All right. If I roll a 1, Tetsuo, 2, okay, just these are going to be in order. Tetsuo, District 9, Akira, Alien, Altered States, number 6 is Scanners, Infinity Pool, then Body Snatchers.
Yes.
So what do we got here? I got an 8. We're doing Body Snatchers.
Oh yes.
This is the 1978 one. We've already covered early in the show. Back in 2020, we covered the original from the 1950s. So yeah, have we done an original and a remake on this show before?
Any of the Halloweens? No, I don't think we've done the Rob Zombie
No.
Halloweens.
Interesting.
Nightmare on Elm Street? No, we haven't done the remake of Nightmare on
No.
Elm
No
Street.
Texas Chainsaw, none of that.
Well,
No.
we did Nosferatu and then the
Oh,
Werner Herzog Nosferatu.
well, you're right. You're absolutely right. Uh, fantastic. Okay, well, that was
I'm
easy. Thank you.
excited.
I'm super excited.
This movie is the shit. Like this movie
Yes.
is amazing.
Donald Sutherland as well.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, great. Thank you all for listening. Thanks, Cecil, for talking with me. And if y'all have thoughts on Cocaine Bear or ideas for movies that you would have chosen as body horror meets sci-fi, let us know on Instagram at randomhorror9 or over on Patreon where we have public discussion threads for each and every episode, and you do not have to be a paying member to participate in those. So watch 1978's Invasion of the Body Snatchers with us this week, and come on back next Tuesday for a new episode. Have a restful night with no Maltese show dog eating your severed fingers or nothing.
But there.
Yeah.